Good afternoon and welcome to Biztech's Ambassador Conversation Show. Now, today our conversation is with the German Ambassador to Malaysia, His Excellency Dr. Peter Blomeyer. Now, Ambassador, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, Ambassador, you are relatively newly appointed to Malaysia. You were appointed last year, and you've served in some very interesting countries ranging from Kosovo to Congo to Uganda. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, yes, I studied law and history in university, and then I decided to enter the Foreign Service. And first they sent me to Japan. That's where I started my career in the economic department back in the 90s. And as you said, I had different postings in different parts of the world. One was in Kosovo, as you said. Before, I had been in Albania. That was at the time when the Kosovo war raged. I was in Saudi Arabia, and in Africa I had postings in Uganda and in Congo. And my last posting was in Siberia and Russia. So and now I'm here. You see, I'm someone who's being tried out by the Foreign Office in various parts. Maybe they want to test my ability to withstand different climate conditions. Now, I'm very happy to be here to withstand the tropical climate in Malaysia.
Well, I think it'd be a lot more pleasant than Siberia for sure.
Yeah, well, Malaysia actually is a very popular posting in our service, and I was very glad that I was chosen for this.
I'm glad you've settled down. I hope your family has settled down as well. Well,
yes, yes.
Now, could we start then, Your Excellency, by giving us an overview for the German economy today, your key sectors and your key engines of growth?
Yes, Germany, as well, most other countries in the world, has also been hit by the pandemic. We had a recession last year. Economy went down by 4.9%. In following certain waves, the waves of the pandemic. So we had a steep decline in the second quarter, then coming up in the third quarter. Then the second wave of the pandemic reached us, so economy went down again. This year, this continued actually. There was a decline of 1.8% in the first quarter 2021. And then the third wave came, and this one did not hit us too much because then already our vaccination program helped us to come out of it. So since a few months, there's optimism that we will overcome the pandemic. Only the last 2 weeks, there were some clouds on the horizon again because the Delta variant hit Germany. 99% of our cases now are coming from the Delta variant. Mm-hmm. But since so many people are already vaccinated, we hope that this wave will be rather flat. The companies actually have coped quite well with the pandemic. There has been support from the state, considerable support. And even the state deficit came back to us. We had no state deficit for almost 10 years, and now we had the second biggest one last year since German reunification. I think it was 4.2% deficit then. But it was needed to help companies, and they came out well. Also because we have a lot of small and medium-sized companies which are quite resilient to crises.
Now, Your Excellency, I checked the numbers. We are very fortunate that earlier this afternoon, the Eurozone PMI numbers, or Purchasing Manager Index numbers, were out. And in fact, for Germany, it's very, very healthy. It was 62.4 in July. And last month, well, it fell slightly. It's still a very healthy 60.6. So essentially, that's basically tells the story of German manufacturers having confidence moving forward.
Yes, they do have confidence that we overcome the pandemic now. There are some obstacles, of course. Just to name a few, we have a semiconductor shortage, which has hit the automotive industry. We still have a severe container shortage. But actually, the German companies look optimistically into the future, and we think that we can restart our economy now.
Now, let's zoom in back on Malaysia and the balance of trade, because Germany is Malaysia's largest foreign investor from the European Union. So in terms of numbers, I think the numbers from MIDA that I've got as of January, it's June 2020 numbers, which we got from MIDA earlier this year. It's 461 manufacturing projects with German participation, total investment 33 billion ringgit, and projects have about 47,277. So Germany is a huge contributor in terms of investment. But is the trade balance on Germany's side, or is it on Malaysia's side?
It's on the Malaysian side, actually. Yes, you can be proud of yourselves here because you are one of the few countries which have a positive trade balance with Germany. And this has been dramatically increased, actually, by the crisis. And this year, the numbers I have is that Malaysia could boost her exports to Germany by 25%, whilst Germany also could make up for a little ground, but was only 2%. So all in all, I think Malaysia is doing quite well with Germany.
So where is that growth coming from? Because 25% is very significant. Is that coming from new sectors, or is that from a low baseline effect because of COVID?
I think much as though to COVID, there is a stark rise in imports of gloves, for instance. Mm-hmm. And also semiconductors are very much in demand now. But I guess we will have to wait for a year or so to see how much of this will be permanent and how this will stabilize.
All right, could you give us a sense of who the big German investors are in Malaysia, and also then explain that very unique German SME Mittelstand culture?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I voluntarily do this. Yeah, what most people are not really aware of is the broad lineup of the German economy. Everybody knows our big companies, especially the car companies, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and others. Also our Siemens or Bosch. They are all here in Malaysia, by the way, too. Yeah. SAP and B. Braun, Infineon. Everybody knows them, but actually the backbone of the German economy are our small and medium-sized enterprises. They cover a wide range of production. They are the biggest employer in Germany. They greatly contribute to GNP and also to taxes in Germany. And we like to say they are our backbone. They are the backbone of the German economy. And they are also the motors of engine. Let me give you just a very prominent example for this. Now, in Germany, we are quite proud of one company which has produced one of the first vaccines against COVID, BioNTech, which is coupled to Pfizer now. And it was a German company who has developed this vaccine. And but what is also interesting is that this company alone now stands for about 0.5% of growth of our GNP now, because it is just skyrocketing.
That's staggering.
Yeah, that's exciting, and I think that also demonstrates the strength of our SME sector.
Now, Your Excellency, with German businesses operating in Malaysia, German businesses generally tend to be very long-term investors. But what are the challenges that are faced by German businesses in Malaysia today?
Well, I think before we come to the challenges, we have to ask for the reasons why they are here, first of
Okay.
yeah, and I think that Malaysia is really for German companies. We have more than 700 companies here, so this is a large number, and many of them are here since decades. So first we need to ask why are they here, and I think there are some great advantages of the location. Malaysia is central in Southeast Asia, and has excellent opportunities to serve countries in the region from here. So it serves as regional hubs for many German companies. It has a well-skilled workforce in good command of the English language, which is important for German companies. There's a good infrastructure with ports, airports, railroads, roads, also internet. So this is another advantage. And there is also, for a long time, there was political stability, main factor for companies. And there is a very forthcoming business climate. Both politicians and administration welcome business and are helpful. I think all these factors, they speak for Malaysia. Now, coming back to your question, what are the challenges now? We need to see that we are at a crossroads now after the pandemic. The pandemic, also the global situation, the relation between China and the US, these factors, they make companies ask where to go to, where to open regional hubs, where to increase investments, and also how they take an influence on how to put up new supply chains, which is now necessary. And I think that Malaysia, as also the neighboring countries, needs to prepare for this, because it is a time of decision-making for companies. We have seen a state of emergency in the past, a quick change of governments, and I think now what is also needed is that Malaysia will reconfirm its reputation of being political stable. This will come with time. I think confidence is still there, but it is a factor which one should have in view. Also, it is necessary to overcome the pandemic. Malaysia is on a good way there with a strong vaccination program, which is starting to show effects, and the economy needs to rekindle. So this is also what companies look on. There are other factors which are also important. I might mention that some confidence into the administrative system is needed. The fight against corruption must be strengthened. There's also the problem for our companies that they want to participate at government tenders. And they have, some of them have the feeling that there is not really a level playing field, that there are lots of government-linked companies who always get the contracts, and this is something which they are also interested in, and they look at this. Bumi-Putra politics are also a factor. So I think there is quite some need for progress, also for reforms. But still, I can tell you, I sense from the feedback of all companies here in the country that they still believe in the positive business environment of Malaysia. There's a strong number of companies which is demonstrating this fact, And of course, they do hope that they will be able to continue here.
Now, Ambassador, one of the key things is that characterize German investors, as you've mentioned, you've pointed out, German investors are long-term investors. They've been here for decades. However, one of the things that perhaps from a Malaysian side, if I've, as part of the research, talked to different people, is the fact that perhaps, yes, you've invested in making things or setting up manufacturing plants, but unlike some other investors, and I use Intel as a very good example, of people who have moved R&D facilities from places like China and set up R&D facilities in Malaysia. So we move up the value chain. For the German companies, the advantage actually is we're really a very low cost base even to do R&D, not just for manufacturing. We've got a very highly skilled, not just a workforce, but a technical workforce, which are all trained in Penang. So basically the pool is there. But if there is a criticism of German companies, perhaps you're not doing enough.
Well, companies do not receive directives from the government, not even from the ambassador, I'm afraid. So I think they do what they believe is best for their company. And I must say it was German companies who have contributed to building up Penang. We still have big German companies operating there.
Yeah, like Bibron is a good example.
Yeah, and I have visited them. I have visited in Infineon there. We have a German business council there, a group of German business people who exchange regularly among each other. And what I can sense is that they are quite confident. Of course, there are some misgivings also. During the pandemic, there has been a flood of ever-changing regulations they had to cope with. I think they were not too happy with this, and this hasn't stopped yet, by the way. But generally speaking, I must say there is the will to stay here. And also to expand. There's also the will to invest. Several German companies, big companies also, but also medium-sized companies, have told me that they are willing to invest and expand here. Maybe they are just waiting until the pandemic allows them to go ahead. But my impression is that there is a continuous interest in the location Malaysia.
And Your Excellency, I think you mentioned earlier in this interview of what I think is a very big opportunity because of geopolitical reasons. The relocation of supply chains is a big opportunity for Malaysia. What do we need to be doing in order to engage German investors better to steal that business and channel that to Malaysia? Because we are a great entry point for ASEAN as a headquarters, as a manufacturing base, as an R&D base. What do we need to do?
Well, we have touched upon several points already. I think that now, we need for the new government to come into place and to take over. Maybe much will be of the same, but then they will have to tackle the workload which is ahead of them concerning, for instance, overcoming the pandemic. That is very important. Now many companies they feel hampered by all the regulations. There have been a lot of shutdowns in this country. Understandable, of course. You need to fight the pandemic, and only if when you will have overcome the pandemic, then it will be safe to live and to work together again. So we do have understanding for that, but that is I think a great task lying ahead of Malaysia, so that they feel free to operate again. German companies have hubs here, and they have installed hubs here, but they cannot serve their customers in the surrounding countries. So I think this needs to be loosened. This is also not only dependent on Malaysia, that is clear. That's also dependent on the immigration regulations of these other countries. But it is important that that they will not be hindered to operate from here. This is one thing. The other thing is that they must get the confidence that they can go ahead with their operations on the ground. You mentioned the investments of German companies here. I have had slightly different figures than you, but let's agree on that it is quite substantial. And there are now about 50,000 people who work for German companies in this country. And some of them had to go out of work because of the pandemic. I think that there is a necessity that they can have the confidence that continuous operations will be possible again. This is, I think, the most urgent need for our companies at the moment. There's another need to facilitate the entry of experts. But I might also say that we have seen already a lot being done for this. There has been a one-stop shop center installed at Maida for companies. Now there is also the possibility via PICAS to vaccinate your workers, so that once you have vaccinated 80%, they can come back to work. So I think that also Malaysian politicians are aware of this necessity. All this needs now to come into gear, and then I'm quite confident that not only the companies already present on the ground will continue here and continue to work and to invest and to employ and to teach and to transfer know-how. They do all this, but that also new investors from Germany can be attracted.
Now let's move on to diplomatic relations between our two countries. How has the fact that we've had 4 prime ministers, 4 governments essentially in the last 4 years, and the current political fluidity impacted long-term relationship building and decision making?
Well, I think that the fact that you had changing governments now reflects the viability of Malaysian democracy. Change is not bad in a democracy. Maybe this was a little bit too much change. I do not
perhaps.
But this is up to the voter, latest in 2023. But I think that we should start to consider it normal if there is a political change once in a while. We will have a change in Germany now. We will have elections in September.
Yeah, September 26th. What should we expect in terms of impacts on NATO, impacts on Asia? Your Excellency, I know that you have limitations in terms of what you can comment as a civil servant, but what are your thoughts in terms of how it will impact us here in Asia?
Yeah, first to answer your first question, still I wanted to say we have had political consultations with Malaysia. I think it was end of May, with a wide range of topics. And I think there is under the ground there is quite some continuity between the governments. Also, the functioning administration is looking for this. This is the case in Malaysia, and this is the case in Germany as well. As for Germany, yes, it's a major election because for the first time ever in German history, ever since World War II, a standing chancellor will not candidate again. Yeah, Mrs. Merkel will not run for office again. She has been an institution for us. She was our chancellor for 16 years, and now on her own she says, now it's enough, someone else shall take over. And this makes it quite exciting because no one goes into the competition with the reputation of having been chancellor before. And we have three parties of, let's say, medium size, the Christian Democrats, the Social Democrats, and the Greens. They are the ecological party. And none of them has enough, according to forecasts, enough support that they would be able to rule alone, not even with one other coalition partner, but we are heading for a coalition of at least three partners. So these three and the Liberals, who have about half of the support in terms of voters as these other three, they will make up the new government. We don't know in what constellation. This is very fluid in Germany. Will depend on the outcome of elections, also on the ability of politicians then to find an agreement. But we can say one thing. We also have two other parties which might enter. It's a party on the far right wing and on the far left wing, but they are both not considered capable of cooperating in a government. So it will be these four parties, and they have, in terms of foreign policy, that was your question, they have common ground. There is an agreement a broad agreement between the democratic parties in Germany on the anchors of foreign policy. One, for instance, is the commitment to the United Nations. This implies respect for the universal human rights, democracy, rule of law, and multilateralism, and support of peace and security, very similar to Malaysia, by the way. And another pillar is our commitment to the Western community of values. First of all, of course, the European Union. We are anchored in the European Union. We work for coherence and further integration of the European Union. The European Union gives us lead also for our foreign policy. Together with our European partners, we want to continue on this path. And we have the transatlantic partnership with the United States of America and with Canada, and embodied by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. So this is the setup of our foreign policy. And if it comes to Asia, I can point out that last year our government has issued its policy guidelines on the Indo-Pacific. This is quite interesting reading, I believe. And this has been broadly supported by also all these four political forces. So this will be certainly continued, I can say. And it reflects much of what I just said. These guidelines, they contain 7 chapters. As I said, peace and security, multilateralism, rule of law, democracy, human rights, but also environment, a very prominent topic in our time. Trade and investment, digitization and connectivity, and also education, science, culture. So the intention is, which is reflected in these guidelines, to deepen, but also to broaden our relations to this region, which we believe to be crucial for the further global development, and to enhance our partnership. And personally, I must say this is my job with Malaysia, and I'm very happy and looking forward to implementing that.
Now, also one of the things, Your Excellency, I want to ask you about where we are at in terms of the promotion of cultural education and social understanding. Obviously, we have the Goethe Institute, which has been around for a long time in Malaysia. We also have, from an educational perspective, I think, several hundred Malaysians who are studying in German universities like that. Could you care to give us some insights in the cultural, social, and educational space?
Yes, this is very dear to us. until the pandemic befell us all, we had a very intensive exchange. We had many artists coming to Malaysia, invited by the Goethe Institute, also invited by the embassy. And we had musicians, and so on all fields of arts, there was this interchange. We have in the country operating Goethe Institute, as you said, they give language courses. Now they have been operating even during the pandemic. They have switched to online courses, which have found many followers. Then we also have the DAAD in Malaysia. This is the German Academic Exchange Service, and they provide advice to students how to get to Germany and how to study in Germany. And I can proudly say that it's not just a few hundred, but 1,500 or even more, 1,600 students from Malaysia studying in Germany. And it will be maybe interesting for your audience to know that we have also quite a few courses in English in Germany. So it's not necessary everywhere to speak German. However, I can only advise you to learn German. If you have kids, then make them learn German in school at the Goethe Institute, because there's a great advantage which Germany has compared to other nations. You can study in Germany for free. We have very good educational institutions, universities, and most of them are accessible for free. So you just need your certificate that you are fluent in German, and of course your diplomas, but then you can study there. So it's worthwhile learning German.
And you know, that's increasingly become a popular topic of conversation among middle-class Malaysians, who find that, you know, the traditional educational venues like Australia and the US and the UK are so expensive, and they're looking for more high quality and more affordable options. And obviously Germany is a very good option, especially in technical education.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, Your Excellency, final question. What would you like to leave us with before we end this excellent conversation?
Well, I would wish everybody here to stay healthy and be cautious, not to get infected, even if you're vaccinated. I'm vaccinated, to stay well away from this virus. And this is, I think, the most important wish we should have for each other in these difficult times.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm Brian Fernandez, and I've been speaking to the German ambassador to Malaysia, His Excellency Dr. Peter Blomeyer, on Biztech's Ambassador Conversation Show. This video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks a lot for tuning in.